Welcome to Spooky News from Spooky Ventures for January 17th, 2020. There's a lot of news to get to, so let's get right to it. Don't forget, Spooky News and all of Spooky Ventures is supposed to be an interactive thing, so be sure to share our videos, like our videos, subscribe to our channel, leave comments, give us some like. Oh, I already said give us likes. So be sure to interact. There's a new bit of security footage that has emerged, supposedly shot by a security guard at a construction site in California, that shows a bright object taking off from the site and going up into the sky. So it's certainly got UFO enthusiasts excited. I'll share the link to the article, and you guys can have a look at the video and see what you think. I'll see if I can include it in the playlist for Spooky Ventures too. There's a new photo that has surfaced of an Edinburgh, UK landmark called Lauriston Castle, where a figure was supposedly captured in a window, and the figure's in period dress. I'll be including the article here, but I'll see also if I can get permission from the person who did the photo to actually include it in this video. So if it's there, that means I got the permission. If it's not, I couldn't get a hold of the person. So have a look, see what you think. According to a shop owner in Irvine, Scotland, the store he owns has a resident ghost, and the resident ghost likes to pull pranks, including pulling out a box from one of the workers who was going to stand on it to get to an upper shelf. And that's been the security video, or security camera video, has been released of that incident, and I'll be including the article. You can have a look at the footage and see what all it says about it. Who knows, maybe if you're in that area of Scotland, you shop at that store and you've had any experiences. If you do, please leave some comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. One of the spooky news for last year, I reported on the Cage in St. Osyth, which is a supposedly haunted house, and it was listed for sale last year, and apparently it has sold. And in honor of that sale, there's a new article in Essex Live that details a lot of the stories about the hauntings and stuff, and the people who have lived there recently, including the person who owned the home. And I'll share that article. You can have a look at that. It's a pretty creepy story, anyway. Whether you believe it or not, it's creepy stuff. In case you missed it, on Wednesday we released a new spooky review. This one was on the new Funko Pop release of Pennywise Meltdown from the It movies. So I'll see if I can put a little bit of a clip from that in here for you to see, but I'll also include the link to the actual full one so you can check that out. Edgar Allan Poe's birthday is this Sunday, and in honor of that momentous occasion, we've released a couple new designs at Cafe Press in our spooky merchandise. So be sure to check that out if you like Poe. There's a new music video that's surfaced on YouTube, and it's actually a trailer for a show as well. It's for the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Part 3 on Netflix. And the video itself is called Straight to Hell, and it's pretty cool stuff. It's going to be added to the Spooky Ventures Spooky Music Video uh, playlist, but I'll also include this article about it, and you can have a look at that. There's another new spooky video released just now. It's called Out at Night, and it's from Rat Boys, and it's basically a spooky Halloween adventure as music video. So that's kind of cool stuff. Again, that's been added to the Spooky Ventures playlist under spooky music videos, and I'll include the article about it. If you're into horror conventions, you might want to be in Dallas, Texas at the beginning of May. May 1st through May 3rd, they're going to have Texas Frightmare Weekend 2020, and they're going to have a lot of great guests, and you can do the usual convention stuff. Should be a fun thing. So I'll include a link and and also include the link to the actual event so you can get more information and sign up and hopefully make your travel plans and get to a cool horror convention. We keep getting these lists of most anticipated movies of the year. Well, Bustle has a most anticipated horror novels and thrillers of 2020 list, which is pretty cool. It's compiled by Goodreads users, and that's a nice, interesting touch because a lot of us like to read too. You know what? Everybody enjoys a good horror movie, but reading is a completely different experience and one not to be missed. So check out that list. Some sad news for fans of American Horror Story. Harry Hains, who was in that show, has died at the age of 27. Um, they talk about how he had suffered from mental illness over the years, so apparently that must have figured into his death, but I don't really have any other details. So, rest in peace, sir. Lock and Key is a new show coming to Netflix, and it's a horror TV series based on a horror comic. So that should be interesting. They got a new trailer, and the comic was released like a decade ago or so, but it's getting made into a TV series, so that should be cool. Last week we had quite a bit of news about the Stephen Moffat, Mark Gatiss version of Dracula. Well, this week ABC has announced that it's going to be running a show called The Brides, which is also based kind of loosely on sort of a reimagining of the Dracula legend, with the Brides of Dracula, I believe, being the main characters. So that should be interesting. It's good to see horror stuff coming to big the big networks. I know I've ranted a little bit about how I don't think the reviews for Netflix horror shows are probably very legit, but I will say this: they are really going in and producing a lot of horror stuff, and they've got a new TV series based on an IDW comic book called October Faction, which is about a group of demon hunters. So that should be pretty interesting. They've got a new trailer for it, and you know what? Keeping the horror alive, that's good. I'm glad for Netflix to do that. Speaking of ABC, they're doing a live musical, I believe, version of Young Frankenstein for the release later this year. I saw a bit of their Christmas story and thought it was miserably bad myself, but maybe Young Frankenstein will translate a little better. They also did some live Norman Lear shows. I saw the first batch of those, the first two of those, and one of them was really good. The other one wasn't quite as good, but this could be good stuff. We'll see. I know a lot of people were rather upset at the old remake of Child's Play. They didn't like the new Chucky doll. Well, I don't even know they named it Chucky in the new version. But in any event, there's a new TV series coming to FX. They've ordered it that focuses around a vintage Chucky doll, and apparently it comes to life, and the usual hilarity ensues, just what you'd expect with Chucky, right? So that should be of interest to people who weren't so pleased with the remake of Child's Play. Hey, even the people who like the remake might like it too. One piece of news that should please American Horror Story fans, the new season just wrapped up a little while ago on FX, and it was the ninth season. The 10th is filmed and ready to go, be premiering later in the year. But they've been renewed for an 11th, 12th, and 13th season. So if you're a fan of American Horror Story, you got lots to look forward to coming up. EW has a list of horror movies releasing in 2020. Now, this list actually does include A Color Out of Space, which has been missed by a lot of lists. So, if you want to check out and get a preview of a lot of horror movies opening this year, be sure to check that list. I'll be including that with the details of this video, and you'll be able to have a look at that. Essentially news because the article just surfaced, not because it's anything drastically new. There's an interesting new article about John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, I've mentioned before I'm a huge John Carpenter fan, so I found it pretty cool reading. It's talking about how The Thing was really ahead of its time. Now, one point I need to quibble with the article is the article calls The Thing a loose reworking of the original 1950s film. That's actually not true at all. Um, both were based on the same book. They're two different interpretations of the same book. This was not a remake or a rehash of the original film. They just happen to both be from the same source material. So that I will take an issue with the author of the article on. But beyond that, it's a pretty interesting article. Well worth having a read. Have you seen the movie Us? I saw it not that long ago, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was both artsy and spooky and creepy and pretty fascinating. And the story, I don't know. I don't completely get the story or see how it's legit, but in any event, it's a really good movie. There's some amazing cinematography, and it's just a cool film. And it has won the Critics' Choice Award for sci-fi or horror movie from whom? Let's find out who that is. It just says the 25th Annual Critics' Choice Awards. So I think it was a pretty deserving movie. I mean, it's actually sort of almost elevates horror to high art in some ways. So that's cool. I'm glad they got some kudos for that. They'll never get an Academy Award because horror gets shunned completely by the critics for that, or by the Academy for that. So credit where credit's due. If you've been paying attention to these spooky news clips I've been doing, you'll know I'm very excited to see the new Color Out of Space movie based on Lovecraft's story. And it turns out it's coming out in theaters in about a week, but I think it's a very limited release. So they've also announced when it's coming out on video, and that will be February 25th. So keep your eye on video. By video, I mean DVD, Blu-ray, and all the alternate options there. So keep an eye out for that. There are no new movies opening this weekend, at least in terms of horror movies, but John Carpenter's birthday was yesterday, so that's worth noting. And on Sunday, it's Edgar Allan Poe's birthday, which, as mentioned before, is why we've got some new Edgar Allan Poe merchandise. So next week, a couple movies open. And that's a wrap for this week's edition of Spooky News from Spooky Ventures. Be sure to tune in next week when we'll have more. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.